Greetings everyone, welcome to video number 39 in the project management series presented by Process Geekoid. Today's agenda will be going over reviewing the PMBOK process table as well as the 36th process, which is the Perform Qualitative Risk Analysis process. This process occurs at the intersection of the risk knowledge area and the planning process group. As always, please subscribe, like, and comment. So let's move forward. So after planning for and identifying for all possible risks, the next step is to prioritize the risk based on the importance for further analysis and action, which is the essence of Perform Qualitative Risk Analysis. We do this by multiplying the probability of occurrence and the impact to arrive at a risk priority number, or RPN. The higher the RPN, or risk priority number, means we need to be proactive in managing and controlling risks that can impact the project adversely. In general, we want to minimize threats and maximize on opportunities. The key benefit of this process is it enables project managers to reduce the level of uncertainty and to focus on high prioritized risk items. Next, this slide recaps what risk management is. So far we have identified the risks, we have planned for it. So now we are at the point where we take the risks we have identified and now qualitatively risk analyze them and give a risk priority number for them. And now we are ready to prioritize the risks, which will allow us to focus on what is really important in terms of risk for the project to focus on. Next, the ITTOs for Perform Qualitative Risk Analysis are as follows. And for inputs, we have Risk Management Plan. Then we have the Scope Baseline. This is important because we want to make sure that risks are identified, do not contribute to any scope issues, and need to prevent major changes since the Scope Baseline has already been approved. Remember, the scope statement, WBS, and WBS dictionary consists of the scope baseline. So the piece that we'll be updating in the project document updates for the outputs is going to be the assumptions. So keep in mind that the scope statement as part of the scope baseline captures the scope description, major deliverables, acceptance criteria, risks, assumptions, constraints, and exclusions and inclusions. Out of all this, assumptions might change, so we will update this in the project documents known as the assumptions log. Next input is going to be the risk register. This is an output coming from Identify Risk process that has a list of all the risks and potential impacts, and it just outlines all the risks that will be there for the project that we have identified. Then we have the EEF's industry standards, studies of similar projects by risk specialists and risk databases that may be available from industry or proprietary sources. This is going to be coming from the outside, therefore it is outside of the project team's control. We need to take this information into consideration to do our qualitative risk analysis. Then we have OPAs. These are policies and procedures that assist in qualitative risk assessments, such as templates, formulas, and risk ratings. For tools, we have the risk probability and impact assessment, and this is where we take the risk probability assessment, which investigates the likelihood that each specific risk will occur. Risk impact assessment investigates the potential effect on a project objective, such as schedule, cost, quality, or performance, including both negative effects for threats and positive effects for opportunities. Then you have the probability and impact matrix, and that is basically taking the probability and impact and giving a risk priority number, which we'll see next in the next slide down. Then we have risk data quality assessment. This is a technique used to evaluate the actual degree to which the data about risks is useful for risk management. It involves examining the degree to which the risk is understood and the accuracy, quality, reliability, and integrity of the data about the risk. Then we have risk categorization. This ties into the risk breakdown structure, which is part of the risk management plan. Now we're taking the risks that can be categorized by sources of risk using the RBS, or risk breakdown structure. Next, it can also be categorized by area of the project affected, such as using the WBS or work breakdown structure from scope. So it could be like IT risk, hardware risk, software risk, resource risk. It depends on what category. Then we will also look at common root causes within the risk categories as well. Next tool and technique is going to be risk urgency assessment. This looks at risks requiring near-term responses which may be considered more urgent to address. And then indicators of priority may include probability of detecting the risk, time to affect a risk response, symptoms and warning signs, and risk ratings. Then you also have expert judgment. Expert judgment can come in the form of prior projects, project management office guidance, risk management professionals or experts, and business continuity management teams to guide in prioritizing risks. Then for outputs, we have project document updates, and the following project doc updates are basically going to be updates to the risk register and assumptions log. Risk register, you're updating as new information becomes available through the qualitative risk assessment. The risk register is updated. You're also updating to the risk register that may include assessments of probability and impacts for each risk ranking or score, risk urgency information or risk categorization, and a watch list for low probability risks or risks requiring further analysis. Whenever you hear the word watch list on the exam, don't get it confused with something else. A watch list is where you have a list of low risk items that you're just keeping an eye on so they don't blow out of proportion. You want to make sure that they don't become a major issue or risk in the project, and make sure you minimize those before they balloon out of control. Next update in project document updates is the assumptions log. Recall that assumptions are part of the scope statement as part of the scope baseline. So here we are updating the assumptions log as new risks are becoming available, as new information becomes available about the risks through the qualitative risk assessment. Assumptions could change. The assumptions log needs to be revisited to accommodate this new information. The key benefit of this process is it enables project managers to reduce the level of uncertainty and to focus on high priority risks. So this slide here, just a recap review of the risk breakdown structure. Remember, the lowest level of the RBS is going to be the risk checklist. We are checking off now that we have basically qualitatively risk analyzed or assessed qualitatively all risks and made sure that we have prioritized them. We're just checking them off based on category. So we'll be using this as we go along in this process. Next, we have probability and impact assessment, and it is a relative numerical scale of risk importance from 0.05 being very low to 0.8 to very high to categorize the priority of risk as those following categories, as you see here, very low to very high. So obviously the first thing that will stand out to you is you need to focus on prioritizing for very high risk items and focus on that, and focus the attention to plan for high risk and high impact items from this risk register, which we have already done before. Next, we have the probability and impact matrix. So now this is basically a next step after assessing it. Now we're going to find the impact. So basically we're taking the probability times impact, which gives us a risk rating or a risk score or risk priority number, and there is no monetary or dollar amount tied to it, hence it is qualitative. Risks are prioritized for further qualitative analysis and quantitative analysis and planning risk responses based on this risk rating. So taking the qualitative risk score, let's say 0.8, you're going to take that and focus on that, and then based on that high number, you're going to focus on what the actual dollar amount is in quantitative risk assessment in the next process. But here we're only focused on qualitative risk assessment, where we're giving a score but no monetary amount. So risk rating score gives us and guides us in risk response planning process, where higher scores mean more attention and basically give more aggressive response and more action needed on those high risk items. A low risk rating score means you need to put it on a watch list and add a contingency reserve, since we have actively accepted it as a risk or a threat, and monitor it before it explodes in our face in the project. So this pretty much wraps up Perform Qualitative Risk Assessment Analysis process. Thank you for watching this video. Please subscribe, like, and comment. Thank you.